In this game animation sample project, we will learn how to pick up an item, how to set a data table, how to set interactions and interaction types, how to create a basics of an inventory. The system comes with its own primary, secondary, and sidearm, and a specialist weapon will be added later. But you could probably, after watching this, you could probably add it yourself, to be absolutely honest. It's going to form part of a longer tutorial series. I've left a link to the roadmap for that so you can see what we're going to be adding, but you can feel free to drop a comment below and I'll answer it. In terms of comments, then feel free to ask any questions about anything you don't understand. I'll leave an FAQ in the description, and then the other thing that is in the description is a project that holds all of these animations and all of the skeletal meshes and all of the sounds that we'll be using throughout the thing in a more organized fashion. It's game animation sample, but I've removed a lot of the gumph, so instead of being 5 gigs, it's only 2 gigs for the entire sort of project. If this is something that you like and you want to see in the future, then please drop a subscription, drop a comment, let me know what your thoughts are, and I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Okay, so first off, we're going to need an item to pick up. So we're going to go to our TPS system and we're going to create a new folder for blueprints. And then we're going to right click and create a new blueprint class of type actor. And this will be BP base interactable. And we're going to then open that up and dock it. And then we're going to add a sphere collision and a widget. And then we're going to right click on the sphere collision, add an event on component begin overlap, right click on the sphere collision again, add a component on end overlap. And then from other actor, we're going to press equals equals, and we're going to drag off and get player character. So we want to check that the only person that's overlapping this sphere collision is the player character. And then from this red node, we're going to drag out and press B and get a branch. And then quite simply, we're just going to grab these 3 nodes, press Ctrl D and move them down to the end overlap. And then compile and save that. What we need to do is we need a interaction setup so that once we overlap this, it tells us what we're overlapping. And when we finish overlapping, it tells us that we've stopped overlapping, so that when we interact, we know that the thing that we're overlapping is the thing that we're going to interact with. So let's go back to our system here. We're going to right click, create another new folder, call this components, and then right click and create another new folder, and we'll call this interfaces. Inside components, we're going to right click again, get a blueprint class. This time it's going to be an actor component. So it will be BPC interaction, or interaction, whichever. Open that up. We're going to add a new variable, and this will be type actors or actor. It's all single. And this will be an object reference. We're going to right click and rename it, and this will be interactables. And then on the details, we're going to change this from a single, which is this single blue line, to an array, which is like a list, because we want a list of all the things that are in range of our interactables. So quite simply, we're going to get our interactables, and we want to do add, and we want to add unique because we don't want to keep overlapping with it twice. And then we're going to get our interactables again, and we're going to do remove item. So this is how we add that something's in range for us to interact, but we need to tell it what. So this bottom pin needs to tell it what. There's a couple of ways that we can do this. What you'll probably find is most people cast to it and then drag it out. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is get over actor and do find component by tag. And this will be of type actor component. And then I want it to be the interaction component. And then we're going to create one more folder. Well, we've already done it, interfaces. So we're going to add an interface. We're going to create a blueprint and a blueprint interface. BPI interaction and then I'm going to open that up. And in here, I'm going to add a new function for interactable. In fact, this will be add interactables. And what we want to do is, first off, we want a boolean to see if it's an add or a remove. And then secondly, I'm going to want the type actor to see what the interactable is. I'm going to compile and save that. We're going to go back to base interactable, and then from this find component by tag, we're going to find the add interactables, which is this add interactables message. And on the begin overlap, it's a tick to say that we're going to add. This interactable will be self. And then we're going to grab these three nodes, find component, add interactables, and self. Control D again, move them to the bottom, put this on true, and then untick this add, because on remove, we're going to remove it. From other actor, we need to pass this into the target of find component by tag. And then we're going to compile and save that. Back in BPC interaction, we're going to go to class settings, and we're going to add the interface, which is our interactable or interaction interface, BPI. And then on add interactables, I'm going to double click and add this event. So from here, I'm going to get branch, put the add into the branch, put the true to our add unique and the false to remove. And then this interactable goes into the bottom of both. So now when we overlap on this sphere, we're going to pass the information to our interaction component here, and it's going to store it in this interactables list. And then when we pick up our item, I'm going to say IA interact. So here we have IA interact. This is already set up as part of game animation sample. So we're going to press this. And we want to check if the interactables, the length is greater than 0, so that there's something in here. And if it is, we're going to do something. So we'll get a branch again and press there from started. If it is, then we want to know what is at copy 0. So what is the first thing that we overlapped with, because that's the thing that we want. And then we're going to pick it up, or talk to it, or destroy it, whatever. This is a completely like modular thing. So to make it super modular, we're going to create another interface. This will be BPI interact. So we've got interaction and BPI interact, which is a bit confusing. So if you want to change this interaction to be like interaction comp, then that might help you understand it. And we've got BPI interact. And from here, we're just going to simply make the interact function at the top. And then in inputs, we're going to add an actor because we want to know who's interacting. And this will be the interactor. Compile and save that. We'll go back to our base interactable, go to our class settings, and we're going to add the interact BPI, but we're not actually going to do anything inside here as of yet. Compile and save that. Back in BPC interaction, we're going to get this, and we're going to call interact message. And if this is true, we need to tell it who the interactor is. And to do that, we're just going to get the owner of the component. And then we are finished with this interaction part just here. So we can close BPC interaction and BPI interaction comp. We can also close BPI interact, that's fine. And then base interactable, we are also finished with for the time being. So back in TPS system, we're going to go to blueprints. We're going to right click base interactable. We're going to create a child blueprint. This will be BP pickup. And then, in fact, this will be BP base pickup. And then we're going to create another one. And this will be BP base NPC. In BP base pickup, we're going to open that. And in here, we're going to add a static mesh. I'm just going to make sure that it's dock to the spear so that whenever the spear moves, the static mesh moves. And then in event graph, we're going to double click on this interact interface here. What we want to do is when it's interacted, we're going to destroy the item, the destroy actor. And then NPC, we're just going to add a skeletal mesh. Again, make it a spear. And on this one, we can just add the SKM mannequin because we don't have any other of the mannequins. And we can move the spear up and the skeletal mesh down. If you want to mess with the spear size, you can increase the radius just like that. And then for this one, for interfaces, we go to interact and we just want to print talking. Okay, and then we're done with basic NPC. I just did that so you can see two different ways of working and why we do child blueprints and why we do interfaces and stuff. So let's get some items going. So we'll go to content, go to TPS system, and we'll go and we need a new folder. So we need to make a structure because we need a list of variables that are going to be on our items. So we're going to get a structure, and this will be S item details. And for the most part, most items are going to have the same details. So we're going to have a name variable. This will be the item name. Then we're going to add another one, and this will be a text variable. This will be the item description. Then we're going to have an integer. This will be item value. Add another one. And this will be a static mesh object reference. And this will be the pickup mesh. And then that's going to be it for the time being, but just leave S item details up here. If we come back to our folder, so we press Control Space to come back to our folders quickly, we're going to right click and make a data table. And then this is going to use S item details. We're going to click OK, and this will be DT items. So we're going to double click on that, and we're going to add a row. And the first one we're going to add is a pistol. So we're going to put in pistol. And then you can make up the values here. I'm just going to quickly put in pistol, and that is worth 10. The pickup mesh will be the pistol that we have. So static mesh pistol. Click save. I'm going to duplicate that and call this one a rifle. And again, very quickly, just going to put in rifle, and rifle. And then in our base pickup, we're going to go to the construction script. And we're going to add in a variable, which will be our data table row handle. So that's going to get the data table row here, and we're going to be able to select what it is. So we're going to call that the data table item. And this needs to be instance editable and expose on spawn as well. And that way we can set it in the world. So we're going to get data table and break it. And then we're going to right click and get data table row. Data table to row name, they go in together. And then we're going to break what comes out, which is the item details. So break S item details. And then this static mesh, we're going to drag out and say set static mesh. And then pickup mesh goes into static mesh, like so. So now, if I go to default level and we go to blueprints and get our base pickup, I'm going to drag that out, and I'm going to say in the details, we're going to use the DT items for our data table, and our row name is going to be pistol, and you can see straight away a pistol's appeared. Control D to duplicate that. And we'll change that to rifle, and now we've got a rifle. So now if I play from here, I overlap, and I press E to pick it up. nothing works, and that's because we haven't added it to our character yet. So we'll go back to sandbox, press add, and we want the interaction component on our character, and then in tags, I'm going to call this interaction because that's the tag that we put on there. So now when we play, get close, press E, it disappears, press E on the rifle, and that disappears as well. So that's all working. So now in our base pickup, we pick up our item, but it destroys. So we're going to want to add that to some sort of inventory. So let's come out again, go to TPS system, go back to components, right click, blueprint class, add to component, BPC, inventory, open that up, and then we're going to add a new variable of type S item details. And again, this is going to be an array because we want a list. And this will be our inventory. And then we need a couple of functions. So I'm going to add a function here. This will be add to inventory. And we can get inventory and add. And we don't want to add unique because we're only adding, we can carry items multiple and they can stack. So we're going to add just a normal, and then feed this bottom pin into add to inventory. And then on the flip, if we select add to inventory, Control D, we can do remove from inventory. And then this inventory, we're just going to get remove item. We'll pass that into there and compile and save that. And then one more, we're just going to get the drop from inventory. And first off, we want remove from inventory so that it removes it from our inventory. And then from there, we're going to get spawn actor from class. And then we want right click, get owner. And we're going to get the actor location. And if we right click and split this spawn transform, then we can add that into there. And the item that we're going to want to drop is as our base pickup actually. So it's going to be base pickup, and there we go. So it wants the data table item, but what if we've shot like 20 bullets and we don't really want to spawn a new one? We want to remember all the old details. So back in base pickup, we're going to add a new variable. This will be item details, so S item details. And this will just be item details. And then what we can do is from data table, we can get an is valid. So if a data table is valid, that means that we have set the item ourselves. And if it is not valid, then we're going to get the item details here. And we're going to set the static mesh. So item details goes in here. We make item details in our variables instance editable and expose on spawn. And then we're going to also grab item details out and set it at the top for the data table row. And then is not valid goes in set static mesh as well. So it goes get data table, we set the item details, then we set the static mesh that's out there, and then it looks at the item details and picks up the static mesh. But if data table is not valid, then it's just going to look at the item details that we're going to feed in when we spawn the actor. So back in BPC inventory, you can see we've got, if we right click and refresh this, now we've got item details to pass in. And all we need to do is get new item. We're going to change this drop from inventory to say item details, and that'll all now work as required. So we need a way of inside the pickup telling our interaction what the interaction type is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to TPS system and we're going to create a new folder, and this will be enums. An enum is an enumeration, but it's actually just a list of options. So enumeration, and we're going to interact type, and we can open that up, and the first one will be always none, and then we can have pick up, talk, and open, and just general interact, I suppose. And then we'll save that. And what we can do is inside the BPI that we have for our interaction component, so back in interfaces, our interaction component BPI, we can add the on interacted event, and we can pass in the interact type, interact type, and compile and save that. And then back in our base pickup, so base pickup, we can do again find component by tag, find the interaction component, and we can call on interacted event. And then back inside our interaction component, we can go to our interfaces and get our on interacted event. And then we can do lots of different things. So we can do on this interact type, we can do a switch on interact. And if it's a pickup, then we can do something different than if it's a talk, or if it's open, or if it's some other thing that can like trigger a cutscene or something. So event dispatcher, here we're going to say on item picked up, and then we need to pass it the item details. So item details, and we're just going to call that here. And we need to change this on interacted event so that it has item details. So it's going to go interaction component. I'm going to add in item details. Like you could just make lots of different ones, like on picked up, on this, on that, and that would stop you having to pass through the interact type, because you would just call them individually here. So this would be like on picked up or whatever, but this encompasses all of them. Going to compile that, refresh this node inside base pickup, and then pass it the item details here, and then back in interaction component on pickup is going to take this item details here. While we've got the interaction type open and we're working on it, we're going to go back to TPS system, go back to blueprints, go to the base interactable, and then we're going to add it here. So interact type, so make that the interact type, and we'll compile and save that. And then we're going to create a widget. So we're going to come out of here, create a new folder for widgets, and then create a user interface widget blueprint. This would be WBP interact prompt, and we'll open that up. And we're going to add a size box and a horizontal box, and then we're going to add 4 text boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to come to this fill screen at the top and say desired on screen, and that'll shrink it to the size that I want. Then this first text box is going to be, let's say, press, and it needs a space on the end so it looks nice. And the second one is going to be E, but this one does need to be changed at the top. So it's name button to press. I just need to make that a variable. And then the third one is going to be the word to, and that needs a space at the end and a space at the start. Doesn't need to be a variable. And then the last one will be interact type, and that does need to be a variable. For now, we'll just say pick up. In the graph, we're going to get the interact type, and we're going to do set text, and then we want another blueprint interface for WBP widgets, and then this one will be set bespoke. We can just call set interaction text, and it just needs an input of a string or text. Sorry, it needs to be text. And this will be our interaction type. Compile and save that, and close this WPP widgets, and we can add the interface to the widget. So interfaces, the widgets interface, and now we have this set interaction type, and we can just pass those details in just here. And then in base interactable on begin play, we're going to get this widget, get user widget object, and we're going to call the set interaction message. And this interact type here, we're going to do enum to string for string, and then it needs to go enum to string and then into interaction type to go to text. Compile that a sec, select the widget on the left, and then scroll down, and we're going to change the space here to be screen. The widget class will be our interact class. And then in the viewport, just raise it up a little bit. Back in base pickup, we can set interact type, and that can be pickup. And then we can plug interact type into our on interacted event as well. And then in our blueprints for our base NPC, you can change it to talk as well. So now if I press play from here, we've got E to pick up. One thing is though that it doesn't change if we leave it, so it's always displayed. So what we need to do is in base interactable, in the event graph, on overlap, we get the widget, set its visibility, and we'll set that to be true when we overlap, duplicate the set visibility, and when we leave we set it to false. And then by default, we'll set the widget's visibility to be not true. So now it's not on the screen, we overlap it, it's there, I pick it up, it disappears, etc. Right, so in our interaction component, we've called this item pickup. So now we're going to go to our sandbox character. So I just need to make sure that this interaction part, so click interaction and on item pick up, make sure that that's the one that's there. So what we need to do is check if we have an equipped item already, and if we don't, then we can add it to inventory, because we can go ppc add to inventory just here and pass this in straight away, and then it'll be in our inventory straight away. But I want to know, have we got a gun equipped already? And if we do, is it equipped in the slot that we're trying to add to? So first off, I'm going to need some details. So I want another enum, and this will be e equipped slot type. We'll open that up, and the first one will be none, and then primary, secondary, sidearm, and specialist. Add those here. Then I want a new component for equipped items. So TPS systems, components, blueprint class, item component, BPC, equipped items. Open that up. Going to want a new variable of type equipped type that we had, equipped slot type. And this will be equipped items. And then we want this to be a map. So a map can only have one primary key, which is the start. So we would only be able to have one item in primary, one item in secondary, one item in sidearm, etc. And then everything else will just be stored in the inventory. So I want to know the S item details of the item that's in each slot. I'm going to compile and save that. And then I want to make a function to check if. So no, we'll make this equip if slot empty. And then what we're going to want to do is get equipped items here and find the item. And this equip if slot empty needs an input. So we're going to have an input of item details. And then we're going to break item details. And we need to add the slot that the item goes in. So let's go back to S item details, and we're going to add in the equip slot type. So slot to equip, and we'll save that. And then in here, we should have slot to equip. I can feed that into here. So we are finding if the item that we've passed in, the slot to equip, is already occupied here. And we can get from the red node and get a branch. So if that's true, then we can just call a return node. And we can add in a output of a boolean. So item equipped is what we'll say. And then we'll leave that as false there. And then back in our sandbox character, we can add equipment, drag it out, and do a check for equip if slot is empty. And we can pass in item details to the new parameter, get a branch, pass that in. And if item equipped is true, we do nothing. And if it's false, then we add that item to the inventory, because we don't want our equipped items to sit on our inventory. We want them to sit on our equipped items character. So back in BPC equipped items, if we don't have an item, then we are going to want to spawn an item. So we're going to create a new function called spawn item. And again, this wants an input of item details. Item details. And then from here, we're going to spawn actor on class. And we're going to right click spawn transform. And then I need to make a new actor. So blueprints. So we're going to go back to blueprints, right click, make a new blueprint class, type actor. This will be BP equipped actor. And then back in the equipped items, we're going to spawn BP equipped actor, but we need to pass this item details to that. So we're going to open up the equipped actor that we just created, and in variables, I'm going to create item details, and we'll rename this to item details. And we're going to want this to be instance sensible and expose on spawn. Compile and save that. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add skeletal mesh here. So then in construction script, we're going to get item details and break it. I think we've only got the static meshes, so that's fine. So we're going to add inside S item details. We're going to want a new variable of a skeletal mesh, and that's an object reference, and that's items skeletal mesh. And then we want to get a new animation blueprint as well. So we're gonna, this one's a bit weird, we're gonna go for an object, and it's going to be a class reference instead, and this will be the animation blueprint that we're going to use for the item. And then back in equipped actor, we can get the item skeletal mesh, get this skeletal mesh. First off, we're going to check if the skeletal mesh is valid, and then we're going to get this skeletal mesh and set skeletal mesh asset. There we go. And we're going to pass the item skeletal mesh into here. And then we're also going to, from the skeletal mesh, set anim class, set anim class. That'll be this set anim instance class. So we collect skeletal mesh here, and then this animation blueprint to here. We'll compile and save that. Back in DT items, we'll select the pistol, and the slot to equip, we'll change this to be sidearm. Item skeletal mesh is SK pistol, we've already got that. And then we don't currently have an animation blueprint for the pistol. So we'll need to, yep, no, we do. AVP weapon pistol, so we can add that to the mesh, which is fine. And then back in BPC equipped items, we can pass in item details here, compile, and save that. And now we need to add a new variable here of type boolean, and this needs to know if the weapon that we have is hands. So if we have a weapon in hands, we're going to equip it to a different slot. So we're going to create a new interface, and this will be BPI weapon actions, and we'll have a few in here. So we're going to have fire and reload and equip, unequip, and then finally we'll have get weapon details, and equip / unequip is going to need some inputs. So it's going to need a boolean to say whether it's equip, and it's going to need an actor as well. So this will be actor to equip to. Get weapon details is going to need an output of S item details. So that will be item details. And then if we go back to BPC equipped items, we can, from this return value, we can call equip unequip message. The actor to equip to is get owner. And then from this equip, we need a select. And this is a bit confusing because if the weapon is in hand, then you want to tell it to equip it to the false location, which is the unequipped slot. And if it's not in hand, we want to tell it to equip to the true location. So it's a little bit confusing. We get a branch here, and if the weapon is in hand, we won't do anything. And if the weapon is not in hand, then we're going to set to say that the weapon is now in hand. And what we're going to do is make another S item variable, item details, like so. And we're going to call this the weapon in hand. And then we're going to set that here. That's now going to be the item details. So the item details here. And then we're going to make one more function here. And this will be the add to equipped items function. And that'll be a simple equipped item add to the map. And this wants the key that we're adding and the details. And that's it. So we're going to go back into spawn item, called the add to equipped item function. Get this, pass in the item details, and then break it and get the slot to equip to for the key as well. So now we've got a record that updates for next time as well. We just want a return node on this. So just add a return node here, and from true, a return node into true as well. So equip if slot is empty. We're just going to call spawn item now. And the item details will be this. And item equipped will be ticked to say that we've equipped an item. Inside our item detail structure, we're going to need to add another one. We're going to add a name, and this will be bone to equip to. And then we're going to click save. We're going to open up our equipable actors. So blueprints, equipped actor. File and save that. And then in the event graph, we're going to go to class settings and add weapon actions. The first one we want is equip and unequip. And then this actor to equip to, we're going to get component by class. And this will be the skeletal mesh component. And then we're going to do attach actor to component. And the target will be the self. And the parent will be this get component by class. And then we want to make sure this location and rotation are snap to target. And then from socket name, we're going to get a select. And we want to base that off the equip. And then we want to get item details here and break that open. And we want, for now, just the bone to equip to. And we want that to be true. So we're going to compile and save that. So now we'll go back to data tables and we update our rifle. So slot to equip to for the rifle will be primary. This will be the rifle skeletal mesh. The animation will be the rifle animation blueprint. And the bone to equip to, again, hand underscore R for the time being. So we can come to S item details and just add in a new variable, bone to unequip to, and that's the name. Then we'll go back to DT items. And for pistol, we want hand underscore R again. And we're going to have spine underscore 04, just time being. And then rifle spine underscore 04 as well, again, just for the time being. And then we can give these items a wiggle, play from here, pick up this pistol, it's in our hand, and then the rifle should go to our back, and it does. Beautiful. So that's exactly what we want. So inside the equipped item, the spawn item, we're going to add a new event dispatcher just here, and this will be item equipped in hands, and this needs two inputs. So the first one it needs is the actor object reference of, this will be in hands actor, and then the second one that it needs is the weapon type, and this is the most important one for our animations. So we want our weapon type, which we haven't set up yet, so let's create that. So we're going to make a new structure of type with an enum, and so we need a new enum. This will be e weapon type. Open that up. We're going to add none to the first one, and then we want pistol, rifle, and then shotgun are the three that we're going to set up. And then we need a structure. So in our structures folder, we're going to add a new structure, and this will be S weapon details. And then inside here, I'm going to add the weapon type enum that we just got. So e weapon type, and this will be weapon type. And then we want some integers. So we're going to have current ammo, and then we're going to have max ammo, and then we're going to have magazines, and then that might be it for the time being. No, we want one more for line tracers. This one we'll use later. So in S item details, we're going to add a variable, and this will be weapon details, and we'll make sure that that says weapon details, and then we'll save that. In DT items, we'll come to our pistol and we'll update these weapon details. So we're going to select pistol. Current ammo is 10, max ammo is 10, mags are 4, line traces will be 1. And then back inside our equipped items here, this dispatcher will come back and get the weapon type that we've just set up. This will be weapon type, and then we'll call that from here. You can call it afterwards if you want it to be cleaner. And this here will be our actor that we're passing in, and then we can break this open, come down to weapon details, break that open, and pass weapon type in. Compile and save. Go back to our sandbox character, select equipped items, and item equipped in hand, and then we want to promote this in hand actor to a variable and promote this weapon type to a variable as well. And the weapon type is what's going to run our animations. It's like our locomotion animations, and our in hand actor is going to enable us to like start firing and reloading and stuff like that. So we're going to compile and save that, and then back in our equipped items here, what we're going to do is we need a way of unequipping and equipping the item. So we're going to create a new function, and this will be unequip and equip. We're going to get our weapon in hand details. We're going to take in a actor, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do equip and unequip message here, and the actor to equip to will be get owner. Then this equip will be a select again with our weapon in hand and tick in the false, and then from here we're going to set weapon in hand. We can just copy this and duplicate it, and then this weapon in hand that we've got over here, we're going to item equipped in hand. The in hands actor will still be the same. Set weapon type will be, and this is where we break this, and we get the weapon details and break that again. And this weapon type is going to be a select based on if weapon is in hand or not. And weapon type for true will be there and false will be there. So we'll compile and save that. And then back in our sandbox character, I can make a number 2 button. So we'll put on debug key 2, we'll get our equipped items, and we'll call unequip and equip, and we'll pass in this in hands actor here. We'll pass that to that. And then what should happen is we pick up this rifle, we press 2, and it switches between being equipped and unequipped. Right, so let's fix the silly where it's spawning on the skeleton. So let's go to characters, mannequin, and go to meshes, and we want the SKUFN mannequin. And we want to click on this pink one. So start with Spino 4. We're going to add a socket, and we're going to name that primary unequip. And then I'm going to right click it and add a preview mesh of rifle. Let's get rifle. We'll turn that around. And we'll move it out a bit and up a bit. There we go. And we can rotate it around a little bit as well. That was better. And then I'm going to add another socket, and this will be the secondary unequip. And I'm going to add the preview asset of a shotgun. And again, I'm just going to move that out, but this time I'm going to move it to the left. It's going to look like that. Probably want the handles the same way around, to be fair, like that. And just in a bit and rotate it around a bit. Sweet. Okay. So next off, I'm going to go to the pelvis, and I want to add a new socket as well. Right click, rename this sidearm unequip, and then we're going to add the pistol, and again rotate this round and down. And so it's not inside his hip. That looks pretty right. And then finally, we're going to get the hand R. Hand R, and I'm going to add a socket here that says weapon socket, and then we're going to add the rifle and swizzle that around and make it line up nice in the hand. That's probably pretty good. And we'll save that, and we can preview an animation of a aim with the rifle to see how that lines up as well. It's probably just a little bit big. That'll probably do. And this left hand doesn't need to be perfect, so we're going to IK it. So we've got weapon socket, so we're going to grab that and copy it. and go back to content, TPS system, data table, find our rifle, and our bone to equip to a weapon socket, and then we've got secondary on equip and primary on equip. So I'm going to do primary first for the rifle. Grab the pistol one, and the socket to equip to is easy because it's always the weapon socket. But for armor, this would be completely different. And then for the sidearm, it's called sidearm on equip. So just copy that. And then we'll add in the shotgun while we're here. So shotgun and shotgun slot to equip would be secondary. Skeletal mess would be the shotgun. And then this has its own animation blueprint of the shotgun. Bone to equip is a weapon socket, that's easy. And then the bone to unequip is secondary unequip. So we'll copy this one, capital S, and put it as secondary unequip. We'll save that. So then we'll duplicate this rifle and change it to be a shotgun. This will be a shotgun, and then we'll play. We'll run over to them and collect them. So shotgun in hand, rifle on the back, pistol go into the wrong spot, maybe because we didn't refresh that one. Take that out, press 2, yeah, there we go, goes to the side. So we've got that equip, that equip, that equip, press 2, and now we've got all our weapons in their slots that they need to be, and that's perfect. So let's do some weapon stuff. Just going to right click, create a new blueprint class, type actor component, BPC, firearm events, and we're going to open that up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to class settings and go to implement interfaces, and we'll go find weapon actions. And then inside BP, weapons, so where's our BP? Blueprints, equipped actor. I want to get this code that we have just done, copy it, go to firearm events, equip and unequip, and paste it. And then put the equip code in here, the actor to equip just here, and promote item details to a variable. Compile and save that. And then this target would now just be get owner. And what we're going to do is on equip actors, we're going to add the firearm events here. And inside our component for equipped items, we're going to do the find component by tag, and that will be the target, and this will be firearms. Copy this and put this in the unequip and equip. Join the targets up and just make sure that only one target's going into the equip and unequip, or else it'll jam out just like that. And then back in quick actor, we're going to call the firearms event and add a component tag. And this will be called firearms. And again, just check if you've got the spelling right. Not, it's meant to be capital. Firearms. And then we can delete this event here. Go to class settings. And we can delete weapon actions. Now that it is on our firearms event. So we've got event, equip and unequip, and now we probably want reload. So we're going to double click reload, and reload is going to be rather simple. We're going to get item details, break it, and we're going to get weapon details and set it. And we're going to go to details and select the current ammo. And then from weapon details, here we're going to break it. We're going to set current ammo to be max ammo. And that is our reload. And then fire is going to be item details broken into weapon details, again broken, and we're going to get current ammo to make sure it's not less than or equal to 0. Get branch, and if it is less than or equal to 0, we'll get a print string, and this will say no ammo. And from false, we're going to get another branch. This condition here, I'm going to promote to a variable, and this will say is firing. And then make sure that this is firing variable is defaulted to false. So we're going to compile and default that to false. And then on false, we're going to set it and put it to true. And then we can put another print string on true here to say has fired recently. And then we're going to get item details, and we're going to break it again and find weapon details. And we're going to set members in S weapon details. And again, we're going to select current ammo. And then from weapon details, we're going to break that current ammo, subtract 1, and put that into current ammo. And then we're going to need a custom event. So we can right click, create a custom event. And this will be reset fire. And what we need here is the is firing and a delay. And there's a couple of options here. You can get it direct from item details, or we can pass it into reset firing. We're going to just get it direct from item details. And so we're going to break this. And then we don't actually have it just yet, so let's create it. What we're going to do is come to our enums, right click, get an enum. And this will be e stats. And what we need in here are some statistics. So first off, we'll have none as usual. And then secondly, we want firing rate. And then we want the damage per bullet. And then reload speed. And like critical hit, critical damage, and that'll be it for the time being. And then we're going to want a new structure as well. So S structure, want a new structure, and we'll call this S max and current, and this is only going to contain two values, the current value and max value. And then I want another new structure. So this will be s underscore stats. And this is going to be the e stats into a map with s max and current. And this will just be stats. So then inside the s item details, we're going to add s stats. Again, call this stats. And then in data table, we've got our stats here, so we can add one. And again, we can only add one type, which is why this is a map. So our firing rate is going to start off at like 0.5. And for a pistol, the max is going to be 0.1 because that's how fast it will go. And for a rifle, let's say the firing rate is going to be 1 and the max value, so the lowest it will go is like 0.5. And that'll do for the time being. So what we're going to do is go back to equipped actor and go back to firearm events, and then we're going to break S stats, and we want to find, and here we want to find the reload speed or the firing rate. The firing rate is better. And we want to get the current, so break S current. We just want to get the current one here. Now, we're going to be using a function like this a lot to find different things. So you might want to collapse this into sort of a macro that you can use elsewhere. So once that's done, then we can do that. And we're going to then reset fire just here, but that's not going to tell us what we've hit or anything. That's just going to reduce our ammo count. So we can test this now. So do this pistol, equip it. I need to get a button that's going to fire a weapon. So we're going to go to blueprints, sandbox character, and then on the left mouse button, we're going to get our in-hands actor, find component by tag, firearms, and then we are going to call fire. I'm going to compile and save that. Just going to make sure that this is all spelled correctly. And we've not passed in the item details here. So that's where it's going wrong. So BP equipped actor, on begin play, we're going to get our item details, get firearm events, and set item details, and pass that in here. Compile and save that. And that's what, there we go, our fixes. So 10 bullets, 1, 2, recently fired. That's working, recently fired. Probably should make this faster. And there we go, no ammo. I'm pressing it a lot. Perfect, that's wonderful. Right, let's do the weapon trace for our actual fire event. So we're going to want to do this quite simply. We'll create a custom event. And this will be the weapon trace. And this is going to have a sequence because we want to do the trace first and then we want to do something afterwards. And we want our weapon details, so item details, break this open, weapon details, break this open. And we want line traces. So on the first one, we want to get the for loop here, and line traces go in here. We need to -1 to get the correct number, so subtract 1, because this goes from 0 and this ends at wherever we are. And then we're going to do a line trace for objects. And we're going to make an array for these object types. We want world static, world dynamic, and pawn. And then the start and end location, we're going to want to get player camera manager. And we get the forward vector here, and that will be our start location. And then we can do get. So actually this is get location. Get out to location, that should be the start. This is get forward vector, and then we're going to multiply that and add that to the at to location till we get our finishing point, and this will be the range. So we need to add range in here. So we'll go to stats and go to e-stats. So the TPS system structure s-stats. Is it s-stats? No, it's e-stats. Because we want it to be a stat type. And this would be the range. And then in our pistol, we're going to add in range, and the range of a pistol should be like 5,000, and maybe the max range for a more powerful pistol would be like 10,000. So we save that, go back to our firearm events, and we'll break open stats again, and then we'll find the range here, and we'll get the current. So we want the current value, so we'll break it again. And then we've got the current value here, so we'll just plug that in to here. And now if we do a for duration, and before reset fire, we'll do a weapon trace. We can shimmy around our item here, play from here, and we're tracing towards the camera 5,000 meters, which is beautiful. So that's good. So we're shooting here, but we're not actually doing anything. That's fine. We're going to sort all of this out. So in weapon trace, just here, we're going to get a branch to make sure that we've hit something. If we have hit something, then we're going to want to do a couple of bits. So the first one is we're going to get a new custom event. This will be surface hit. And this requires a input of a hit result. So hit results. And then from there, we're going to break it and get the location. and we're going to do spawn system at location, and this location will feed into location. And then for the rotation, we want to get owner and get actor rotation, and then find look at rotation. So actually this is location, sorry. So from get owner, we want to get location, get out to location, and then find look at rotation. And we'll have the location of our hit versus the location of our actor, and then we'll set this to be rotation. We'll feed that into here. This system template here, I'm going to do a select off here, and then the fizz mat here, we're going to get surface type, plug that into here, and we're going to then do a spawn sound at location, and again location into here, and we want a select from here again, surface type into here, that into there, and then finally spawn decal at location, select off the decal, surface type into here again, location into location, decal size can be 16, 16, and 16, and then rotation, we're just going to do the exact same thing again that we've done here. So we can just duplicate that and put that into rotation. We just need to feed the location from this pin by double clicking it into start, and we can compile and save that. So from this weapon trace here, we're going to then do, what did I call it? Surface hit. Like that, put that in. And then from out hit, we're going to break it. And we'll do hit actor, apply damage. And we can get damage from these stats again. So we can do find, we can do damage per bullet. Again, we can break that, get the current damage per bullet, put that into base damage, compile that. And now currently this won't do any extra trace, this will just repeat the same trace 5 times for our shotgun. So we want to add some variance to that as well. So we can do a random point in bounding box, and on this end here we'll go into the center with the return value going into end, and the half size we'll do the index times like 2, and we'll set the half size to be like that. So let's do that and see what happens. We'll go back to our data table, let's check the shotgun is set to be, the line traced on here is 5, it's not, so do 5 on here. Weapon type is shotgun, we'll do 5 ammo, 1 mag. Stats will be reload firing rate is going to be 0.3, and then max value 1. So we'll pick up the shotgun, and it's got no ammo because we haven't refreshed it, so we'll give this a wiggle. and then that's not firing. So we need to add a range as well. So again, range 5,000, 10,000, that's how far it can go. So this random point in bounding box, what we're going to do, we need to connect this up to this plus, so like so. And this center part goes to the actor location. And this times goes into the top node of the plus. So it's a bit confusing, so just take a second to have a look at that, because it's a bit of a mess. And then what we're going to do is pull off here on the half size and do a times, convert the bottom into a weld, convert the bottom into a float single point, and the top just needs to be 1. And then we can have this be 300. And we should be able to now pick up a shotgun. And there we go. We got some bullet spread cracking off on that shotgun for the traces. Sweet. So a couple of things to do now. We're going to save everything for a start. And then we need some sounds. Sounds are important. And some animations and some aiming as well. So let's do a new enum, and this will be of type. This will be of type enum because this is a new enum. And we'll call this E weapon actions. Open this up. None on the start again. And then we've got weapon firing. We've got character firing weapon. And then the same for reloading. So reloading, be specific though. So we've got weapon, reloading, and then character, reloading. And then we're going to want some, what other options are there? We've got melee. And, oh, I can't even think. I think that's it. So we'll just leave those as they are. And then we're going to want a new structure. And this will be S sound effects. So SFX. And we're going to want a weapon actions here. And again, make it a map. And this time we want the sound cues. Sound cue. And this will be SFX. And then we're going to duplicate this SFX, and this will be SVFX. Open this up, and this one will be Niagara system. So type in system, and we'll find the Niagara system, and change the SFX to VFX. And then finally duplicate VFX one more time, and this will be S montages. You can open that one up, and this will be anim montage. Reference anim montage. Then DT items. So we're going to go to pistols. So then we need item details, and we need to add in the SFX, the VFX, the montages, and no S montages. So SFX, VFX, and then montages. And we're just going to save all those. And back in DT items, we can now go to our pistol, and we've got SFX. So firstly, let's do weapon firing. And we got pistol Okay, let's do fire instead. Have I chosen the right thing for SFX? Let me just check. Apologies, SFX is not sound cue, it's sound base. Sound base. Alright, back to DT items, back to SFX. And now we should have some pistol. There we go. Weapon, pistol, fire. And then we've got reloading, so we can have a clip in, like so. And VFX wise, we also have weapon firing. So we've got weapon fire. And so that's our VFX. And then montage, we have weapon firing. And this will be pistol. And we want the one that's on pistol animations, so where the path is. And then we have character firing weapon. So again, pistol, fire. We can do equip and unequip as well. And then we've got weapon reloading. So we've got pistol reload. And then we've got character reloading. So pistol reload, but the character instead. I've chosen the wrong one for the reload on the weapon. So weapon, pistol, reload. Okay, so that is a lot. We'll save everything. We'll go back to firearm events, find reload, and on reload, we're going to get item details. We're going to get the montages. We're going to break the montage. We're going to find the montage, and we want to find weapon reloading. And then we want to do play montage. I don't want to do play montage on every event, so I'm just going to do custom event. And this will be play weapon animations. So play weapon anims, right click, play montage. And the skeletal mesh to play is going to be get owner, get component by class. This will be the skeletal mesh. And that'll be in skeletal mesh. And then the montage to play is going to be passed in here. Like so. And so now when I want to do a montage, I can call play weapon anims, pass the montage that I find in here. Like so. So let's try that, shall we? Go to pistol, right click, do this. I don't think I've set up a reload. So in sandbox character, we're gonna get a new key. So this will be the R key. And again, I'm gonna put these on actual key binds later on. Get the R key. And we want to do is find components by class and do reload message from here. Compile and save that. And then in default level. Yeah, now I should be able to press R. And you can see that it's reloading. But it looks pretty pants because we're not actually doing the character one as well. So what we can do in our character sandbox, I can do play, can do another custom event. So add custom event. And this will be play montages character. And again, we can just do the same thing, play montage. This time skeletal mesh will be mesh, montage to play will be just here. You probably want to get an interface that goes back to player, so let's do that. So we can do CPS system, blueprints, go to interfaces, blueprint interfaces, BPI, player, and this one will be play montages on player, and this one needs an input of anim montage. This will be montage to play, compile that, and then I can go back to Samuel's character, go to the class settings, add a new BPI player, and then in the interfaces I can do play montages on player, replace this one event that we just made, and then back in firearms, DPC firearms, I can also get the character reloading one, so I can do find character reloading, get player character, get player character, and we can do play montages on player, and I can pass in this montage to play. So compile and save that, and now when I press the reload button just here, so R to reload, it doesn't play. Why is it not playing? So we'll find our pistol reload, open that up, and make sure this slot is on default slot. And there we go. We've got our reload gun all working together. Couple of issues though. It's going to slide around when we're running. So if we pick up the gun, like so, do a reload, you can see we're sliding around. And that's because we haven't set up an upper body slot to be able to do it yet. So let's try and finish off on our firearm events. And then we'll set up the animations and the aiming and everything like that. And then that should be us done. So event fire, let's make a new custom event, play SFX, and we've done this a few times, so get item details, and this one will be a break, drop it down, SFX, break, and then we'll find, and what we'll do this time is we'll plug this in here, so that when we call the event, we know what SFX we're looking for. And then we're just going to play sound at location, and the location will be get owner, get actor location. And we'll plug that in there. But we might want it to travel with the actor, so actually we're going to do a spawn sound at location instead, and pass the sound in here. And then the parameter that we're using, we need to get this and do an execute trigger parameter, because the audio is using a trigger parameter, and then we'll call fire. So back in here, we can now call spawn sound or SFX, play SFX. This key that we've set up here, we're just going to come over here and make sure this isn't a pass by. And then we can drop this down to weapon firing. Compile this. Now, if the pistol has an SFX, did I set one up? Yeah, weapon firing. Now I'll be able to hear the weapon firing. There we go. So that's the weapon firing. And then in firearm events, what do we also want? We also want some VFX. And just before we do that, we're going to add inside weapon details. So we're going to go back to TPS system, structures, weapon details. We're going to add a new variable of a static mesh. And this will be bullet casings. And then what we're going to do inside weapon details here is we can get the pistol shell here, and inside VFX I can get the weapon fire, and we haven't got it yet, but I'm going to get shell eject and a tracer as well. So I need to go back to the enum that we have, which is the weapon action types, and then we'll do shell eject and bullet tracer. And then back in pistol, I can now select shell eject and choose the eject. So weapon fire shell eject, and then the bullet tracer and choose tracer and save that. Back in firearms events, we're going to do a very similar thing than what we did in play SFX. So we're going to create a custom event, and this will be play VFX, and we're going to get the weapon details again. So get breakout item, VFX, break this, and then we're going to find the VFX, pass the key into here, and then we're going to do spawn system attached, and we're going to get owner, and I'm going to get component by class, which will be the skeletal mesh, so scale, and I'm going to put it onto the attached to component. System template is going to be a bit different. I'm going to pull off and get a select here, and I just want the key here. Sorry, that's incorrect. The attached to point name is what I'm going to pull off and get a select, and from there it's going to be the key. But some of these won't come from the muzzle, some of them will come from a different location, but I'll show you that. And the find is going to go into system template. Okay. And then we need to do set Niagara variable bool, and then set this to be true. And in here we need capital U for user, and this is a dot, and then the word trigger in capitals. And then I want to get the weapon details here and break it, and bullet casings, I want to know if that is valid. And then we're going to do, from this return value, set static mesh, and we want to set Niagara variable static mesh. As long as that's valid, the shell casings go into value, and the variable name is capital U for user, and this will be shell capital E. All the starting letters have a capital, so shell eject static mesh, and we'll compile and save that. And then over here now we can do play VFX, and again make sure the key is on. So let's make sure the key is not a pass by reference. I'm going to select it. So this will be weapon firing. Next one, shell eject, Next one, bullet tracer. Compile, save that, and then let's test all this. So do this, play from here, pick up this. You see that shell that ejects on the floor. You see the gas goes. Now we've not set up the locations properly, so we need to set those locations properly. We're back in firearm events. I'm gonna go to this here, this select that's on the spawn system. Character firing weapon, it's going to be on muzzle, and tracer is also going to be on muzzle, and shell eject is going to be on shell eject. Okay, so now we're going to close everything to the right of this down, and then we're going to open up the content, go to blueprints, go to sandbox character, and we need to open up the animation blueprint here and add this. And then we need to go to the anim graph, and between pose history and the output pose, we're going to get pose history and cache it so it's a variable. This will be motion matching. And then we need to do a layered blend per bone so that we can set up our aiming stuff. And our base pose is going to be motion matching. Oops. This motion matching, not the other one. Motion matching. Use cast pose motion matching, so that one. And our layered blend per bone, we go to details, we'll add in a branch. And this will be lowercase spine 04. And it will be a depth of 4. And we'll click to keep the rotation blend. So we're going to split the body on this skeleton, and we're going to be able to rotate alongside that. So then we're going to want to do another layered blend per bone. And we're going to cache this one off as the aim offsets. And we're going to stick aim offsets. And we're going to then get the default slot that's here and duplicate that and just drag that over here. And blend poses. So we're going to grab this default slot, and inside here we're going to change it to upper body. Inside aim offset, this layered blend per bone is going to now be the clavicle R and clavicle L. So we're going to get details. We're going to add a branch here. This will be clavicle underscore R to a depth of 1. And then we're going to add another branch. And this will be clavicle L. So copy, paste clavicle L, depth of 1. And that just means that our motion matching, which we got here, I'm going to duplicate, is only going to run on these arms. So when we're shooting or aiming. And we're going to grab this upper body and duplicate it again. Make sure that it's only playing on this lower blend. And then from upper body, we're going to blend poses by bool. And we're going to get a property access. And this needs to be the input state. So input. So we're probably going to go sandbox character. There we go. And then input. Character input state and wants to aim. So if we're aiming, then we're going to start actually aiming, and if we're not, then we're going to use motion matching again. So if all of these are false, then the lower, so this is what this is doing, is the base pose is always going to be this lower half of the body that's always going to be running whatever this motion matching is doing. And then this bit here is going to decide what the top half is running. So anything with the spine, this is going to decide. And we're going to then split it to say, actually, not here anymore, just these two arms. So then we've got the motion matching part of the two arms. And then any animations that are on the upper body, so like our reload animation should be on the upper body. And if we are aiming, then we're going to do something else. But if we're not aiming, then we're just going to continue to run normal motion matching. So now we're going to do blend poses by weapon type, which isn't here. So we're going to add a variable here of weapon type. So this will be weapon type, and then we're going to do blend poses by weapon type. Blend poses, weapon type. There we go, weapon type. And we're going to put that into true. And the active enum will be this weapon type. And we're going to right click and add pistol and add rifle. And then default pose, we're going to just use the motion matching again. If we've got nothing in hand or unarmed, we're using motion matching. So pistol, we come down to the asset browser and we can get our AO. So we've got pistol idle ADS, and then we've got rifle idle ADS. And we can put rifle into rifle, pistol into pistol. And then if we come over here, you can see that we can get the AO values, which is the aim offset values. They're already set up. So we can right click, get AO value. And then we can right click to split that and put Y into there and that into the pitch. And then base pose, we're just looking for the pistol idle. The pistol, so idle and pistol, and that is the pistol idle ADS. I'm going to put that into there, and rifle, so rifle idle ADS, rifle idle ADS, that goes into our base pose. We can duplicate this AO value and put that into there. Compile and save that. Make sure you save them regularly. And now, if we pick up this gun and aim, nothing happens. That's frustrating. Why's that? Because we're not setting this weapon type. Okay, so in event graph, we're going to get our reference to our sandbox character, and we're going to get weapon type, and then we're going to get this weapon type in the ABP, and we're just going to set them. Compile and save that. Default, play from here, grab this pistol. There we are. We are aiming the pistol and running and shooting. And then when we reload, it's not doing anything because I've got it on default slot. So let's find our pistol reload. Pistol, go down to our animations, so our montages, and in montages. And we want the reload here. Open this up and change it to upper body. Right, let's give this a wiggle. Right click, play from here. There's our shooting. And now here's our reload. And if I reload again, we are running around. Same as what we were. And this works with our rifle as well. But currently we don't have it. Oh wait, switching between them, so we can sort that out too. So for the shotgun, just for the time being, we're just going to use the rifle one. So let's add shotgun here, and we can duplicate the same offset and add that to the shotgun, compile and save. And then there's our shotgun one working as well. And it's all good. And yeah, so you'll get these errors if you don't set up your stuff. So you just want to add like a is valid on these. So if you don't set up any sound effects in your data table here, you'll flag like this shotgun's got no animations, no visual effects, no sound effects or anything. So it'll flag and say that it's naughty. So just in firearm events on each of these, we're just going to check that they are valid before we execute them. And that should be it, really. Okay, so this is getting a bit like, whoa, a bit crazy. So what we're going to do is twofold. I'm going to chuck this play SFX into a function. So I'm going to just collapse to a function. And then the same for this play VFX. And I'm going to collapse that to a function. And the same for surface hit. Collapse that to a function. And then we can do weapon trace as well, actually. And we can collapse that to a function. Reset fire can't go to 1 because it contains a delay, which is a bit annoying. And then event fire and reload. So reload could go to 1. So we could collapse that to a function. Oh, no. So we could collapse the reload to a function. And that would just be reload, reload weapon, equipment is fine, and then this fire can be a function as well, just to tidy things up a little bit. And that can be shoot gun. There we go. Now that's a lot tidier. Right, so a couple of bits that we still have left to do. Firstly, we don't yet have a way of knowing where we're going to shoot. So just need to get rid of these ones at the end. Compile that and connect this up here. And this should just be key. I don't know why it's doing key 1 and key 2 and stuff. Because it's coming off twice, it's doing key 1 and key 2. So we'll just get rid of that for the VFX, the SFX. Key into SFX. And then that's all fine. So cool, that's all tidied up. Sweet. And then what were we doing? Right, we want to go to TPS system, structures, item details. I'm going to add a new one. And this will be texture 2D object reference. And this will be item icon. Save that. And then inside widgets, we're going to create a new widget. So this will be user interface widget blueprint. And this will be WBP crosshairs. And then I want another one for WBP hit marker. And then I want one more for WBP, ammo, and weapon details. I'm going to start with ammo and weapon details, and we'll get a size box, and we'll get a vertical box, and then we're going to get image, and then we're going to get text, and then I'm going to get a horizontal box, and then I'm going to get some more text, and then I'm going to duplicate that once, and then twice, and then in the vertical box, I'm going to add some more text below it, and right click on the text that we just added, and we're going to wrap that with a horizontal box. And then I want some more text in that horizontal box. So I should all like that. And I'm going to change the fill to be desired on screen. So this image here is going to be the weapon icon. This text block here will be the weapon name. So that needs to be a variable. This first text block will be current ammo. So again, that needs to be a variable. This second text block doesn't need to be a variable. It's just going to be a /. And the third text block will be max ammo, and does need to be a variable. This text block will be magazines, and probably want to have a colon and a space. And then the text block after that will be magazine amount, and again needs to be a variable. So I'm going to compile and save that, and that will be fine. And then inside crosshairs, we're going to add a canvas panel, and we're going to add the weapon details that we just set up, ammo and weapon details here. Just expand that and move this flower down so that the anchor's there. And then I'm going to get a text box, and we're going to anchor that to the middle. And inside this text box, it's just going to be a crosshair. I'm going to say size to content, and that's just going to be in the middle, like so. Compile and save that, and that's our crosshair and our weapon details. Yep, so that's fine. And then our hit marker is just going to be a canvas panel, and it's going to have a border, and that border is going to go to the middle. You can press Control and Shift to move stuff to the middle, and its size is going to be thin, so it's going to be about 50 by 10, no, 5. And its alignment is going to be -0.5, and then I'm going to duplicate that, and its alignment will be 0, but then -0.5. No, just reset that with that anchors in the middle. This one will be 1. What was 0.5? No, 1.5. There we go. That's placing something in the middle. And then we want another border, but this one is going to be lengthwise. So it's going to have a size 50, size 5. So size Y will be 50, and size X will be 5 instead. And that's pretty centralized. And then we're going to duplicate that, and instead of 1.5,
That new one's going to live at minus 1.5. Nope, 1.5. And this will be 0.5 up, make it 2. And that's pretty centralized in the middle, so we can put out and save that. This one's going to be really simple. So in event construct, we're going to add a delay. It's going to be visible for 0.5 seconds, and then it's going to remove from parent. And that one's going to be super simple to set up. What we're going to do is we're going to go firearms events and on shoot gun in weapon trace. When we hit something and go to this surface, we're just going to do create widget. We're going to do the hit marker, and we're just going to add to viewport, set up properly like this pistol. And then that just tells us that we've hit something. Now, obviously, that's too big. So hit marker, designer. So I'm a bit of a ding dong. So we want these two here, and we're just going to make their size smaller, so like 25 and 25. But then bring this one up a little bit. And then yeah, make this one 25. And make this one 25. There we go. So that should in theory be half the size. So you can play with that as you want, but that will be fine for me. And firearm events, when we construct our event, so if we equip an item, we get a branch, then we're going to want to do a custom event, and we'll do set widget, and then we'll do create widget, and this will be the weapon, and this will be crosshairs. And we're going to add that to our viewport. So we're going to promote it to a variable first, and then we're going to add to viewport. So this will be crosshairs HUD. And then what we want to do is we're going to get W, BP, ammo and weapons details. And we're going to set the gun name. So we get whatever I've called it, which is weapon name. So we get weapon name, and we'll get weapon icon, and we do set text for weapon name, and set brush from texture for weapon icon. And then from item details, we can break these, and we can get item name and place it into there. And we can get item icon and place it into set brush. And then we'll do another custom event. Add custom event, and this one will be set initial ammo. Call it from the end here, so set initial ammo, and then in set initial ammo, what we're going to do is grab this crosshairs, make sure that it's valid, get max ammo, so weapon ammo details, max ammo, set text, and then item details, break this, and break weapon details. You can set the max ammo here, and then we're going to get another custom event, and this will be update ammo text, and we can call it from the end here. And the reason that we want them to be separate is obviously every time we fire, this ammo text needs to go down, so we need to call this event to send it down. But for the most part, we're just going to copy all of this and duplicate it and move this down, except that this max ammo won't be the thing. It'll be current ammo, and it won't be update ammo text at the end, and it won't be max ammo, it'll be current ammo. Final one, custom event, update magazines, and then again, we're just going to call this, duplicate it, and we're going to get magazine amount, put it into here, and then rather than current ammo, it's going to be magazines in here. And then at the end of update ammo text, we're going to not update magazines because we don't want to call that every time. We're going to update magazines at the end of set initial ammo. So that is all of our weapons here. So now what we need to do is we're going to go to reload weapon, and then we're going to call the so we also need to do magazines as well. So we need to do a minus on magazines when we do a reload, not 2. Ooh, every time you reload it takes 2, that's not good. And get magazines here. And when you reload your weapon, so where are we calling reload? We can check that the magazines that we've got, so magazines greater than 0, do a branch. It's true here, and false, we'll do a print string. No more mics. And then we can do both update ammo text and update magazines just here. Pile that. In our shoot gun, we can do update ammo text, compile that. In the event graph at the top where we're doing this widget, we can do set widget, and then if that's false and we've unequipped it, we want to remove from parent. So we get this crosshairs, and we'll just call remove from parent, and then that. So now when we unequip, it will disappear as well. So let's test all this. So we're going to grab this pistol, 10 bullets, max 10, magazines 4. There's our shooting. We press R to reload, goes down to 3. Press R to reload again, goes down to 2. R to reload again, it goes to 1. Then 0. And now we shouldn't be able to reload. So let's empty our bullets. And now, yeah, we press R. We haven't got any more mags and we can't reload. So let's go to our data table and just make sure that our weapon details, everything is set. So rifle, 10, 10 and bullets, and 4, line tracers 1,
And then we want the rifle shell to be the bullet casing. And then for stats, we're gonna add in, so we've got the firing rate, we want the range. And like, what if I only want this to be like 400 and the max range to be like 1000? SFX. Might just have to use pistol fire because rifle fire is not working. VFX. We've got the weapon firing. And here we've got muzzle flash. And then shell eject. And here we have shell eject. And then finally bullet tracer. We've got the tracer here. And then montages, weapon firing, got rifle fire, weapon reloading, we've got rifle reload, and then we add the ones for the character as well. So character firing weapon, so rifle fire, character reloading, rifle reload, and then we save that and we'll go to default level, give this a wiggle, and then pick it up and we aim from it. And now we've got our static mesh coming out. Our muzzle isn't where it should be though, so that's in the wrong place. It's like firing from its hand, but we'll check its reload. Reload looks really good. So there's a couple of things to fix here. So firearm events is the first one. You might get an error about the crosshairs, so what we're going to do is right click and convert to validate get just to fix that as well. And then in the visual effects here, with character firing weapon set to muzzle, but actually that needs to be weapon firing. A character firing weapon can be none. We're not going to spawn any visual effects on anywhere where that's going. So that bit is sorted and fine. And then we want to do swap weapons. So inside our components, we can go to our equipped items and we can go to a new function and we'll call this one swap weapons. And this needs two inputs. It needs a type actor. So input 1 will be actor type. Object reference. This will be current weapon. And it needs the slot type as well. So slot type. Equip slot type. This will be slot. And then from there, we're going to get equipped items. And we're going to do a contains to see if it contains our slot. So if we have one that's active already. And then we're going to get the weapon in hand details. And we're going to break it. And we want to check if the item that we have, we want to make sure that we're not trying to go to the same one, so it's not equal to our slot. And if both of these are true, so we get an and then drag off and get a branch. Then we want to get another branch. And we want to check if the weapon is already in hand. And if the weapon is in hand, then we want to call unequip and equip so that we can put that weapon that is in hand away. So we get current weapon and put it into the parameter, and then that'll like run all the code there to unequip the current weapon. And then we're going to get weapon in hand and set. And we will get the equipped items and we will find item of the slot that we've put in. And that will go into weapon in hand. And then we need to call the item equipped in hand. And from this weapon in hand details, we need to break S item details. And we need to get the slot to equip. Sorry, we need to get the weapon details and break it. And then we need to get the weapon type. So we know that if we're moving from a rifle to a shotgun, for instance. And now this needs to pass an actor so that we know who is going to who. But just before that, we're just going to add the unequip goes to set. So after it's done doing this, we set this. So what we're going to do, because we need the actor and we need to know what actors are equipped, we're going to go to TPS system, go to structures. We're going to create a new structure. This will be S equipped actors. I'm just going to open that up and we'll have S item details as usual. So this will be item details. And then we need to add a new one in, and this will be of type actor. And this will be an object reference. And this will just be the equipped actor. And then back in BPC equipped actor, we're going to change this from S item details to S equipped actors. So we're just going to change the map and change the variable type. And then this is going to run through and tell us where it's goofed everything up, which is fine. So get equipped items here. Then we're just going to need to do a new find on this. And we're going to shove slot to equip in here and a branch in here. And that'll get rid of that one. And then equipped items. Need to change this add. This add will be here and then connect all of this up. And then this bottom blue pin just needs to go into this new one to create a new value. And then we can delete the old value. Compile that. And then here we're going to make S equipped actors. Item details going to go into item details as it did before. And then the new equipped actor here is going to go into that one. And then we can just refresh this node, compile that. Equipped item here, we just need to get the contains and replace this here. And then equipped item, we're going to get the find and just replace by breaking this open, passing the item details in here. And then the last one is the equipped actor. Here can now go into core item equipped in hand. And it can now also get unequip and equip, and we can pass the equipped actor into the new parameter just there as well. We'll compile and save that. Now this will work where we tell it what weapon to swap to, and it swaps to it. But we need a couple of bits first. So currently, because we've got 3 weapons, it's not really possible to identify like 2 weapons you want to swap between. So we're going to make a new function, and this function will be called weapon routing. So open up weapon routing, and weapon routing needs an actor as an input. So we need an actor, object reference, and this will be current weapon, and then we need the equipped items, and then we need the weapon in hand, and we need to break it. Slot to equip, we're going to do a switch on that to see what slot we're in. There we go. So if we have nothing in hand and it's none, we're going to swap to our primary. If we're on our primary, we're not going to do anything. If we're on our secondary, we're going to swap to our primary. And if we're on our sidearm, primary. And if we're a specialist, primary. And then we're going to duplicate that and change it so that if we are with our primary, then we equip our secondary. So attach primary here and attach current weapon into current weapon. Now, if we have no primary, so if we are on our secondary sidearm or specialist and we don't have a primary but we have a secondary, we need to do something here, and that's why this false exists. So our swap items, we're going to need another branch because we need to check that equipped items contains a secondary. Equipped items does not contain a primary, so primary can be contains not, but there is also a does not contain as well. And we need to check again that equipped items is not the key, so we don't want to change between the equipped items and the slot that we're being asked to, so we're going to duplicate this top value here, make sure that these are different, so not all here, and then we're going to make an AND. So does it contain a secondary? Yes. Does it not contain a primary? So we're not swapping to primary. And finally, it's not, we're not trying to swap secondary to secondary. So we're going to connect all those up there, and then quite simply we're just going to call swap guns and call we're swapping to the secondary, pass in current weapon to current weapon, and if it's false, I'm going to put a print string so I know what's going on. Put no primary or secondary. Yeah, false here, do that, compile and save, and then we'll go back to our character and add an input so we can swap. So back in our character, we're going to have what keys we got? Well, left mouse button R and 2. So we're going to use key number 3 for the 3 key, and then I'm going to duplicate that and go to details, change that to be key number 4. So we'll have both of these on the same one in the end, so it'll be like a press and hold and a tap or whatever. So we're going to get equipped items, and for this one I'm going to get weapon routing, and the current weapon is going to be our in-hands actor. So number 3 switches between primary and secondary. And then for number 4, we're going to have swap guns. And that's just going to go straight to our sidearm. We'll compile and save that, and then we can test. So play from here. Sidearm, that's all equipped. 2 puts it away and brings it out. 3 says we've got no primary or secondary. So if I pick up this primary, go to 3, nothing happens. So this add to equipped items, we're just going to move that out. And then what we're going to do is this in-hands actor, I'm just going to add this to the return node just here. And back in equip if slot is empty, I'm going to get the add to equipped items actor here, and we're going to make it here. So we're going to get this, and then get the slot to equip is the key, and get the item details to feed in just here, and connect all this up. and then back in spawn item. That should be now working, and that should let us swap between guns. So here's our rifle, and here's our pistol. We're going to press 4 to go. So we press 4 and it unequips the pistol, which is fine. But then it never unequips the rifle, so that's not really what we want. 3 moves between rifle and pistol, perfectly fine. But if I press 4, it equips the pistol. So there's a problem here. And the pistol's not working because we haven't passed in the enhance app to swap weapons when we're pressing number 4. So again, go back to default level, right click, and now press 4 to swap, press 3 to swap back, pick up our shotgun, and then it swaps between them. You can see the UI is changing, and we can swap to our pistol, all perfectly fine. Now we're going to tidy it up and add some fanciness to it. So we're going to go to our inputs, and we want some inputs. We want IA interact, so we're going to duplicate that. This will be IA fire. Open that up, and we'll just make sure that we remove these triggers. That's fine. And then we're going to duplicate IA fire. This will be IA reload. And then one more, duplicate this. This will be IA swap to secondary. And then duplicate that one again. This will be IA swap to sidearm. So in IMC Sandbox, we're just going to open that up and open up the mappings. And we're going to add the fire mapping that we have. And this one's simple. Select the keyboard, select the left mouse button, sorted. Then we're going to add reload. So IA reload. And this one's simple too. Press the keyboard, press R, reload. And then I'm going to add in a new one. And this is going to be swap to secondary. And this one will be on tab. And this one needs a trigger. So this one is just going to be a pressed. Then we're going to add a swap to sidearm. And this is also going to be on tab. But this is going to have a trigger. And this is going to be on hold. And we want this to fire 1 time. And the threshold is going to be 0.2. And the actuation is also going to be 0.2. So back in our characters, we can start replacing some of these events. So we've got IA fire. And this is just going to be on started. And we've got IA reload. Again, this is just going to be on started. And then we've got IA swap to secondary. Maybe swap weapon would be better. And this is also going to be on started. And then we've got IA swap to sidearm. IA swap to sidearm. And then we'll see about what we put this on, whether we put this on started or something else. So what we want is the swap weapons to the sidearm one to be on triggered, and on the weapon routing, we just want that to be completed. And we're going to press compile, and then we're going to test it out. Pick up all 3 of our weapons, tap tab, it will change between them, press and hold, it will change to our sidearm. That works perfectly fine. While we're here in our character, let's go to fire, and what we're going to do is set timer by event on this, and the event that we want is just a new customer event, and we're going to chuck fire into that. And
we'll just duplicate that a sec because we want the first one to fire and then it to keep firing, and the time that we want is we can get, if you see equipped items, get weapon in hand and break that, and then break stats, and we can find the firing rate, and we can break that and get the current value and put that in time. And then once we are completed or cancelled, we're just going to do clear and invalidate timer. So cancelled, completed, and that should allow us to fire continuously. So pistol, what's its stats? Its firing rate is like 0.5. So I pick up the pistol and I press and hold the button. Because we're not tick looping. Let's tick looping. Then we reload with the R. And then we'll go every 0.5 seconds. It runs through and shoots again. So the other thing to do is right now, if I pick up a weapon, I can go behind me and shoot, and it'll do this, and it's a bit like, why is it doing that? So what we want to do is get our character, and when we press fire, which is this one, so now when we're firing, I'm going to just make a new custom event, and this will be set temp aim. What we need here is the character input state, and we need to break it, and we want to check if once the aim is true, and if it's true then we don't do anything, we'll just carry on, and if it's false, what we're going to do is we're going to get character input state, and we're going to set members in character input state, and the member we're going to set is once the aim, and we're going to set that to be true, and then we're going to update input state server. Then we need to create a new variable in here just to say that we're temporary aiming. So we'll call it temp aim, and we'll set that to be true. And then when we let go, well, first off, let's get fire and say set temp aim. We'll do that on both of these. And then when we let go, we're going to get temp aim, make sure that the branch is true. And then we're going to copy these nodes here, and duplicate them. And if that's true, then we're going to stop temp aiming and stop aiming. So let's give that a go. So what should happen now is when there we go, we snap straight over here. So if I go over here, we snap over here to say that we're aiming where we are. Like that. It just looks a bit better than being able to aim just at the camera, but also keeps us able to hit fire as well.
And now we can just go into the data table and we can add sort of all the animations that you want. And if there's a new one, you can go to content and go to TPS system and enums and it's the weapon actions. So for instance, we've got equip and then there's unequip. So we can do back in DT items for the pistol. We've got equip, so pistol equip, and we can just select that, add a new one. And then we've got unequip, it'll be generic unequip. And then in firearm events, whenever we need to equip or unequip, so event equip unequip. So here we can do play montages on player, and we can get player character, and then we can do item details and break this, and then break the montages, and we can find the equip. We can plug that into here, and we can copy this and find the unequip and play montages on player. Pass that into here, and we just want to make sure that on both of these that they are valid. So if this is valid, and then if this is valid, pass that out, compile that, and then we can give this a wiggle and pick it up, and there we go. And then I think it's 2 to unequip, and now it's back out again. So then we'll pick up all these guns, and then when I'm on my pistol, you can see we unload and swap to the rifle, bring out the pistol again. And then for the icons, if you just grab some icons, then they'll update automatically. So you'll find some icons to use. I'll leave a link in the description where you can find some icons. For now, I'm just going to use the AI green. And then on the firearm events in like surface hits, so if we go and find surface hit, you can add some decals. So there's a decal that I've attached in here. It's this bullet hole material. And then you can add some spawn systems and some sounds of what happens. And then when you update your physical materials, it'll update here too. But this is already long. I've already got tutorials on that. So what we'll do is grab this pistol from here, and then you can see the icon just there. And there, it's hitting and causing a spawn. Like that. And that is that. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it's been a long one. Stay tuned for the next one where we'll look at hand-eye K, and we'll look at the post-search databases, and we'll look at how to add specialist weapons and all sorts. So should be fun. Thank you very much.